Hey guys, and welcome to The Broken Sword. Today we are going to look at a topic that's not often discussed. What was happening in Rohan before the Lord of the Rings? Obviously, we are all very familiar with what happens in Rohan during the main portion of the War of the Ring, thanks to the Two Towers and Return of the King, but before is somewhat of a mystery. Let's look into it.
Build me an army worthy of Mordor.
Now, before we get into it, I know you guys are probably sick of hearing about us starting new projects by now, but we actually have some pretty cool news. A couple of friends of ours have set up a brand new channel and they've asked us to help out with it. We absolutely agreed to come on board and we are helping them out by presenting the content. It's nothing to do with Middle-earth and very few of you are probably interested. It's actually to do with pro wrestling, specifically the Attitude Era. I know you guys are not going to be too into that, but I wanted to give a shout out to our friends project nonetheless, as they are super talented and super cool people, and showing some support for that channel would be awesome. So I'll leave a link in the description just in case you are interested. Thanks guys! So though it does not boast the same depth of history as the other kingdoms of men in Middle-earth, Rohan has always stood strong against the forces of evil. In fact, Rohan itself was a kingdom that was forged out of war. In the year 2510 of the Third Age, Gondor was stuck in constant battles with armies from the east. Armies of Easterlings and men from Rhûn had marched on their lands, with one goal: conquer Gondor for their own gain. Now at this point in time, Gondor's list of allies had grown rather thin. Arnor had long since fallen, the elves were perhaps too short in number to come to the aid of their former allies, and the dwarves had pretty much concealed themselves within their caves and mountains. Cirion, the steward of Gondor at this time, had sent out messages to anyone that would listen, for without some sort of aid, the desperate Gondor would likely fall. An answer to Cirion's call came from an unlikely source. As the armies of Gondor fought their Candish foes upon the fields of Celebrant in a battle that was almost certainly going to be lost, a host of Northmen arrived on their steeds, bringing hope to Gondor. At their head was Eorl, the Lord of the Northmen, who led his men into battle, dealing death and defeat to the enemies of Gondor, and bringing an almost impossible victory to Cirion and his army. To show him gratitude, the steward of Gondor granted Eorl and his people a vast green land of Calenardon to dwell in. It became known as the Kingdom of Rohan, and from that day forward, Rohan and Gondor became firm allies. So after settling in their new lands, Eorl and the people of Rohan began to build their homes and villages for themselves. The capital of Edoras was founded in the early stages of Eorl's reign, and work began on the Golden Hall of Meduseld, which was completed by Eorl's son Brego. Eorl's line would know years of peace and prosperity, and the kingdom was flourishing. However, as you can probably guess, peace did not last. It was during the reign of Goldwine, the sixth king of Rohan, that the Dunlendins that were driven out of the lands many years ago begin to appear again. Although they did not cause any trouble at first, the Dunlendins would bring problems to the Rohirrim for years to come. The peace that Eorl's line had made came to an abrupt end during the reign of Deor, the son of Goldwine. The Dunlendins had been gathering in the north and had amassed a rather sizable force and began to attack the lands of Rohan, raiding its villages and slaying its people. The Dunlendins believed that the land of Rohan was rightfully theirs. This began the ongoing wars between the Dunlendins and the Rohirrim, wars that would last throughout the reign of Deor and his son Gram. However, the worst was yet to come, as the conflict between the two enemies would continue into the reign of Helm Hammerhand and claim the lives of his sons, which brought the first line of kings in Rohan to a tragic end. If you guys want to know any more information on Helm Hammerhand, who in my opinion is the coolest king of Rohan ever, we do have a full video on him that you can check out if you're interested. Anyway, the leader of the Dunlendins tried to marry his son to the daughter of Helm. This was all just a ploy to get his own bloodline into line for the throne. Once Helm discovered this plan, it is said that he killed the Dunlendin leader with one swing of his mighty fist. He then declared the Dunlendins an enemy of the kingdom of Rohan. For years then, raids on the village were common, and soon Helm and his people had to flee, allowing Edoras to briefly fall under the control of the Dunlendins. Then from his fortress of Soothburg that he now resided in, later of course named Helm's Deep, Helm took the fight to the Dunlendins, and stories of him became legend. Although he never managed to reclaim Edoras and lived out the remainder of his days at Helm's Deep. Helm lost both his sons during the Great Winter of 2758, and upon his eventual death, he was succeeded on the throne by his nephew, Freyolaf. Thus began the second line of kings in Rohan. It was Freyolaf who led the assault upon Edoras, reclaiming it at last from the Dunlendings. It was actually during the coronation of Freyolaf that the White Wizard Saruman made his first appearance in Rohan, promising to remain an ally of Rohan if they let him reside in Isengard. Although the Dunlendings had been defeated and pushed out of Edoras, peace did not fall upon Rohan. Bands of Dunlendings still caused trouble for generations to come, and they were no longer the only threat that Rohan faced. Orcs had been settling in the mountains and eventually started raiding the villages. It was years before the Orcish threat died down. The battles with them even cost the life of Walder, who was the 12th king of Rohan. He was later avenged by his son, Folka. Looking ahead slightly, during the reign of Folkwyne, the son of Folka, Rohan answered Gondor's call for aid in their war with the Haradrim. During the war, the two kings' eldest sons were slain, leading to the youngest son, Fengel, to succeed him. Fengel was a foolish and mostly wasteful leader, having very little respect for his advisors. He was eventually succeeded by his son Thengel, and it was during his reign that Saruman now proclaimed himself the Lord of Isengard, the first sign of malice from the wizard that would later end up plaguing Thengel's son, Theoden. Following his acquisition of the Tower of Orthanc, Saruman found one of the Palantir, and with it, eventually sealed his own fate. Using the Seeing Stone, he became corrupt by the Dark Lord Sauron and began secretly building an army of orcs, soon using his knowledge to breed an army of fearsome Uruk-hai. Looking to expand his powers further, Saruman turned Grima Wormtongue to his cause and used him to slowly poison the mind of now King Theoden. By controlling the king, Saruman could control Rohan, and only the arrival of one that could match Saruman's power could free Theoden of his control. We know the rest of the story from here. And that's pretty much it. So my question for you guys today is this. If the Dunlending people and the people of Rohan never fought over all those years and were just allies the entire time, what differences do you think that would have actually made to the land of Rohan? Would it have changed anything in the War of the Ring beforehand? Would perhaps the land and armies of Rohan look to expand and overpower other allies or enemies and grow their kingdom? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. That's it from me today, my friends. As always, I would love to thank all of our patrons and channel members for your support. It would really be hard to continue doing this all the time, full time, if it wasn't for all of your extra support. I know many of you are looking for updates on our upcoming short film, but of course it's been a very slow year with everything that's gone on, both throughout the world and personally, but we will be getting to it, don't you worry, and as soon as we are at work in production, you guys will be getting weekly updates. Again, thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you have a great day, and I will see you next time on The Broken Sword.